Well, good afternoon, good evening, good morning to a few folks. Thank you for joining. This is the December final 2019 edition of Networking Masterclass. My name is Stan Nikowski. We're going to walk through an agenda today. We have a great session that we'll get to here in a moment regarding NetScaler ADC. Remember, Networking Masterclass at citrix.com is the email handle for us. Please send any feedback there. We value that feedback, and as we go into 2020, are looking to incorporate some of that feedback. So as we kind of reflect on 2019, out of the 11 sessions that we had for the year, lots of different topics regarding our portfolio and varying levels of information within those topics, but the portfolio is evolving as well. So as we have additional cloud services, containerization, new feature function sets, and hybrid multi-cloud, we want to make sure to incorporate those as well as our traditional on-premise large enterprise products within the portfolio that customers consume. So again, any feedback there is valued. Please send that in. Again, if you are remote, we've had the best experience. If you've done this before, you're probably familiar with this slide. If you've attended Masterclass in the past, if you're new or if you brought a friend along with you for the first time or one of your first sessions, we generally have the best experience using computer audio. And a lot of that has to do just with country codes, with the amount of countries that we have. And believe it or not, we have about 32 different countries represented and 600 attendees within this session today. So if you have any problems with audio, just let us know. We'll try and help you out. We do have moderators and panelists on the call as well. But computer audio tends to be the best experience to avoid all of those phone calling codes. And if you have any questions regarding the content throughout the session, go ahead and post your questions. We generally will either answer them directly via the question and answer function of GoToWebinar. Sometimes we'll even pause during the presentations and have our presenter address directly anything that can't be answered for some reason. If we have to double check on something or make sure that there's, no violation of answering the question regarding a product. We record all of these and we keep the questions, so we'll respond to you offline as well. Okay. All right, and again, this session is being recorded like all of our masterclass sessions. So over the years, it's been compiled into quite the library. So you can go back and review. If you have something urgent or pressing that comes up and you have to step away, you can certainly go back and watch the webinar and complete the webinar that way. And then in addition, today, Dave Potter from our team presents the Americas webinar following this one. So if you get part of this one or something happens and you want to jump on his, you're more than welcome to do that as well. At the conclusion of the Americas webinar, we'll package that up. We will email that to you in a follow-up. And we will also have a survey attached to that follow-up as well. So go ahead and take that survey and provide us your feedback. Okay, so that's me there on the left, Stan Nikowski. I do the EMEA sessions for you for Masterclass. And today we are joined by Mr. Ronan O'Brien. So he's going to present to you. I'm not going to steal any of his thunder. Ronan, if you're on the line, I'll go ahead and make you presenter. And if you could introduce yourself, that would be wonderful.
Brilliant. Yes, thank you, Stan.
Right. So I'm going to make you presenter. And we should.
All right. Nice. Just going to share that screen now. You should see some CLIs and things like that.
I see a terminal.
Sneak preview. Brilliant. Yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about. Some of that stuff today. But let's not scare anyone off too soon. and I'll pop this up here. Right. So thank you, Stan. Yeah, so if you have looked at or been a fan of the NetScaler Masterclasses, you may recognize the name. I have done a couple of these certainly in the past. I've been working with NetScaler now for about 13 years. And as you may tell from my accent and the apostrophe on my name, I'm based out of the Dublin office in Ireland, where our EMEA Tech Support Centre is based. So I spent the first couple of years in support, and that's possibly why I've been asked to do a little troubleshooting tips and tricks. So this is hopefully going to help anyone who's just kind of starting out with NetScaler, or maybe using it for a little while. And you're looking for some information on, maybe things aren't going quite your way, maybe something environmental. What we're going to talk about is I'm quickly going to go through the architecture. Nice picture of our Citrix sponsored Red Bull Formula One car here, and the hood or part of it is off because we're going to be taking, as you saw from the CLI command, we're going to be taking a look inside some of the counters and some of the different elements that we can use to diagnose exactly what's happening in real time on the device. So a bit about the architecture, so you kind of know, if you're brand new to it, this will be useful just to get your head around it. Then we take a look at some connectivity, licensing, IP addressing, some different things in there to help you get up and running. Policy expressions, policies are huge in Citrix ADC. I will be, by the way, I'll be referring it to NetScaler and Citrix ADC. I kind of used them interchangeably. We have rebranded NetScaler to ADC, but nothing else has changed. It is still the same thing, just a different name on the downloads page. So everything or lots of features on NetScaler are controlled by policies. If you struggle with policies, understanding them, you probably struggle configuring most of the things on the device. However, there's no need to struggle. They are very, very easy. And with our policy builder, you'll see how easy it is to configure, what ordinarily might sound like quite a complex ask. So I'll show you a little bit about how to build it and then how to troubleshoot. You go, hey, why, what my policy is not doing exactly what I think it'll do, or how do I know it's going to work, that kind of thing. We'll talk about that. And some load balancing. Let's take a look at load balancing stats. You want to know what's happening on the back end exactly. We'll take a look at some of those. And then also diagnostics, on-box diagnostics. So we have some helpers there which weren't there when I started with NetScaler, but we have some really cool tools built into the device that you can use to troubleshoot. And then we'll wrap up with 6 little letters at the bottom, right? CIS and ADM. However, these really are massive game changers in terms of supportability of Citrix ADC. I'm going to show you some cool things in there. So let's get going. Architecture, what's in a box, right? So when you boot up our MPX or when you start a virtual appliance, it's nothing really too different here, from kind of your Intel type setup, with the exception of you have your serial 9-pin interface on our MPXs, SSL hardware accelerator on our MPX appliances, an LCD screen, to show you the model, and the light set module, right? Most models have that. So that is our remote access little card that's in the device that has its own NIC, has its own OS, its own network stack. The only thing it shares with the device is it pulls some power off the power supply, but allows you to get access to the CLI basically over TCP/IP. So there's nothing strange or startling in there, and the reason for that is that NetScaler or Citrix ADC is fantastic software. It's what runs on that. That is the magic. When you boot up a device, like anything with hardware, there's a power on self-test. We have a master boot record, and this will load up the bootloader, which points to a kernel file, right? Right about here is where things start to get different from anything else you've seen. The BSD user space gets loaded up into memory. This will load, then the packet engine start, right? And this is, I'll show you, this is where, again, number 5 here is where we, we differ from kind of Linux or BSD as you would be familiar with it. The packet engine startup, the configuration gets parsed, loaded, and applied. So we load up that ns.conf, we go through it line by line, applying each line of configuration, and it's done. So up to step 5 is pretty much a factory edition box, right? Then the configuration gets applied. There's 2 little things in here where if you go to our support documentation and that kind of thing, you'll find in some certain scenarios, you may want to run some commands after the packet engine starts, and you might find a file called rc.netscaler in there in the /ns-config. Think of it as like post boot commands, and that's, you may see that referred to in our documentation. You shouldn't really need it day to day, but sometimes there's some corner case scenarios where that is required. So once this is what it looks like, right? So it's the CPU, the first CPU is where the user space processes are running. So all the userland processes, we'll talk about those in a second. BSD network is there, so it has a network stack, right? It thinks it's talking to the network, but in fact, the real stack that matters is what is controlled by the packet processing engine. All right, so it talks directly out to the interfaces. It talks to the SSL accelerator. All right, so if you think you know a bit of BSD or Linux, you go, hey, I can configure this from here, please do not do that, right? You need to make all configuration changes from the ADC or the NetScaler command line or in the GUI. Right, messing around with things in here, usually you just find it doesn't actually change anything, or you might break something. All of that lost, however, it isn't broken for good, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So this is, you can see our packet processing engine. This is where all the magic happens. We take packets in, we're polling these interfaces continuously, looking for a packet. We take it off the interface, we process it in a single thread. One of the reasons why we're one of the fastest ADCs out there, we're not interrupt driven. And then we do our caching, we do our web application firewalling, and we send it on its way. So this is really the brain. The BSD user space and CPU core is more for housekeeping. As things scale out, we need to get more crunch, more power behind the device. In our MPX devices, we have multiple cores, right? So we have multiple cores that get added on like this, 8, 12, 26, right? Things get pretty beefy at the top end. We can add tons of cores on there. Similarly with the virtual appliance, the more cores I add and more memory, the more packet engines I get. And some caveats to that. Again, we'll talk about that in a few seconds. Back here to this thing that flashed up. So things that run in our userland processes, the SSH daemon runs in there in BSD. There's a web daemon that launches the GUI, some syslog processes, things like this. So important processes. However, they don't compete in terms of CPU with packet processing. That is the highest priority for any packet processing device. Packets in, packets out is most important. All right, so we don't interfere with that with our user space processes, and that's why in the GUI we can find myself a GUI to look at somewhere. Here's one here, being logged out. It's nice and big for everyone to see. Maybe it's too big. That's why you have packets CPU usage. and management CPU usage, right? So I'm actually not too concerned if this guy goes up to 80%. Sometimes it often does, in fact, spike up to 80, 90%, and it's usually during log rollover where we're just simply gzipping some logs. Absolutely fine. This is the one that's going to impact performance of the device, right? But it's good to keep an eye on it. It shouldn't be pegged at a 80, 90, 100, but that's why you see two different CPU usages there. All right. I said multi-packet. So you can see if I drop into shell in BSD and I run top to like process manager in Windows, I can see all of the processes which are running there, and I can note that there's only one process running on CPU number 1, and that is this here, the packet processing engine. All these other processes are running in the management core. That's some information about that. All right, you can see there everything that's running on CPU 0, which is the management core. Okay. On a virtual appliance, you can add more grunt. You simply have to add more vCPUs and more memory, at least 2 gig per packet engine. For production, heavy production, we recommend 4 gig per packet engine of memory, but 2 gig is the minimum you need to start up that additional, those additional. And you can see here on a VPX 1000, by adding a couple of extra cores, I've effectively trebled the computing power of my device, right? Why would you need to do that? One simple answer, and that's where you're doing on the device SSL offload. So if you have certificates on there, you're doing encryption, decryption, and high volumes of that, that's where you need to have the extra power, because on the virtual appliances, you don't have the bonus of offloading SSL. All right, so that's just, some information about that. How do I know I'm getting my extra packet engines? Drop into the shell, type top, and you'll see the additional packet engines there. You're up and running. That's only possible on a VPX 1000. So VPX 25 or VPX 200, it doesn't matter how much RAM or how much vCPUs you add on the hypervisor, you'll always only ever have one packet processing engine. Right, so logging into the first time, sometimes you might see this. All right, and let me just, if I can connect here. I have my, I'm just going to bring up my device. So 2 vCPUs and just to show you some of this. So I'll try not to use too much slides. You've come along here to see some real stuff. That's what I'm going to try to show you. So this is going to boot up in a second. But effectively, once you see this here, NSNet Connect, right? Usually that's an indication that the packet processing engine hasn't started for some reason, right? If that happens, that's pretty serious. It means that the device isn't passing packets, and usually people can't log in with NSRoot. So how this comes into us is that someone says my NSRoot password doesn't work, can't log in with NSRoot. They call support log in. We go in and we take a look and we see that little error there, and we go, okay, the packet engine hasn't started. So how do you get in? And I guess what do you do when you get in? There's another question. It's very nice. We actually do this diagnostic here, so it tells me that it requires a minimum of 2 gig to start. So that would be a kind of an indicator that something is up. We didn't always have that. And we have to log in with the NSRecover account. Why doesn't NSRoot work? The reason why NSRoot doesn't work is because that is in the ns.conf file, which is parsed by the packet engine. So it doesn't get parsed, that doesn't get applied. All right. So I just, so we want to log in with NSRoot, that doesn't work. NS recover, and you try the NS root or the NS root password, and I'm in here. So note, I'm straight into the shell, right? I don't have access to any NetScaler commands. The CLI isn't working, and here's where you get support to come in. They can usually give a hand if there is something else that is causing this issue. Maybe the packet engine couldn't load for whatever reason. They might have to swap out a file. This gives us access to the file system, and we can actually get in and try to recover the device from here, right? So that's just some tips about that. Now, first shoot this guy down, and I'm going to set this back to 2. There's a few other reasons why the packet engine doesn't start, but this is the easiest way for me to demonstrate that. Right. So that's just some connectivity type queries. Now, licensing, license files. This is something else we get. You start up a device and it doesn't have the license that you intend. What do you do? Right. So first of all, the license files that you load onto the device itself, which are becoming less and less popular, by the way, they must end in a .lic lowercase. Must be located in this directory. So if I just come along here, that's not the device I want. This will do, I guess. So you can see there's some license files in here, right, ending in .lic, and there's a few of them in here, and I can do this, and you see some of these. This has a deadline, so this is going to expire on the 1st of December, or that's why I think there's a second one on there which is actually applied. So some of these license files have time limits. How do I know what has happened with this license if it has actually applied? I go to the license log file. Go on here, and I look at the license log file. It is human readable, right? Really, really nice. Tells you exactly what's happening. Yep, it's read these license files in. So there's the 3 that we saw, and it steps down, and lo and behold, yes, it is expired. So several of these licenses are expired, but it did find one license file that is present and working. So it doesn't matter if you have old license files sitting there, they'll be loaded, parsed by our license server that runs on the device itself, and then discarded if they're expired. They are also additive, so I can have, a few different licenses on there. There might be some overlap in those. It'll always accept or take the highest option. So if I have an advanced edition license on there and a premium or platinum license on there, it will split up with the premium or platinum features.
So just a few questions in the queue. If we just want to answer them in real time, that'd be great.
Yeah, brilliant. I just
so
saying that.
Before we get too far, back to resource allocation, how much RAM should be allocated to the management CPU? Do we have a minimum or a recommendation as opposed to
4 gig? 4 gig on production for everything. We have the BSD system is 64-bit. So BSD is 64-bit. The packet engines we're running are 64-bit. So I mean, yeah, for heavy production systems, 4 gig. I get away with 2 gig on management the whole time. So it really depends what you're doing. you shouldn't be using a lot of memory on your management. So
Yeah.
just for the sake of being really super conservative, because there's a bunch of people on here, a couple of hundred people, I'm going to say, yes, you must have 4 gig, but you know, I might start with 2 and see how it goes.
Great, thank you. When you're parsing through the license file, do you actually see the throughput that's been allocated, or do we have to know what the code means? So I think that's that CNS_V8000P is the question. That's basically telling us this is.
So these are, yeah, I mean, so this is kind of a bandwidth number. SPE is Platinum or Premium Edition, you know, so they do make sense, right? They do stand for something, but it's not something that we expect our customers to know what they are. By running the CLI command show license in the CLI, let me just come out of this. Show license. I get something a lot more friendly and nice, right? So you can see exactly what's turned on and the licensing that's in there.
Yeah.
Right,
so actually, that's a good point. So you can get that information from a NetScaler command as opposed to parsing the log.
Yeah, or the GUI naturally.
The GUI as well, of course. Great. That's all that's in the queue. Please continue on.
Brilliant. I just for everyone else, you can just show the license in here, so you get your license type and everything, and the features which are enabled are down there as well. All right, super. Great. So that is licensing. Licenses are applied at boot time, right? So if I log on and with my NetScaler appliance, I boot up and then I delete the license, nothing's going to happen until I reboot again. So the licensing event happens at boot time when you have it physically licensed with a single license file. Licensing it from ADM, which I'll talk about in a second, is a little bit different. All right. So we have a few different ways of licensing our devices, or what I call centralized licensing. Let's take a quick look at what some of that looks like, or what that means. I'm going to log into my my ADM, application delivery management, or what used to be called MAS. And we go to networks and licenses. The little warnings there. You see a bunch of licenses are in here. So some of these are actually old ones or expired. And I want to go to bandwidth licenses so I can see what's in here. All right. So I can see one of my devices is licensed here, and I want to license perhaps a different a new device. So let me take a look at this one here that's just booted up. If I log in, remember this is the one that had the problem with the packet engine. Hey, I can see my CLI command, and that's all good. And I want to just take a look at the command we need to use to license that. First thing you have to do is we have to add a license server. So add license server. Hopefully everyone can see this. It might be a little bit small. There's a way to do this through the GUI as well, by the way. I'll show you that in a second, maybe a bit more friendly. But what I'm going to do is here, I've logged into my ADM device, right? It's a bit like a NetScaler or ADC that I can SSH into it. There's a CLI. I type shell. I drop into the shell. Oops, I'm going to have to relog into this again. Good session. There's a license daemon on here. Tail-f log. So this is my license server. And what I'm going to do is live. I'm going to add a license server. Oh, brilliant.
I think you just had a typo on your port.
Oh, that's right. Thank you. There we go. Okay. So I've done this. Let me pop back here. I can see that there's a checkout, right? Citrix 10.91.2 to 118, right? So it has recognized that this device has connected. I'm just going to, in case it has taken some default capacity, unset ns capacity, bandwidth, set ns capacity minus. So let's give this 2 gig addition, flatten all the way, and that is in megabits, right? We drop back to our ADM. And we can see in the log file that I've checked it out. There we are. So it's taken an instance out of it, right? So one instance checked out, and we can see here it's taken, I asked for 2 gig. We portion out the licensing in 10 meg chunks. So it's taken 210 meg chunks, which is 2 gig. All right, effectively. You want to see what that looks like. I'm just going to refresh my ADM. Oh, it's happened already. I can see it's jumped from 2.5 to 12.5. I can see my other device is in here. It's not managed yet, so I will want to actually have that managed. So I'll do that I can do that later. And I can see my instance here, I'm using 2 out of a total of 5. Right? So this is my ADM. Really nice way of licensing. Check in, check out, makes it so handy. And the bit that's even nicer, it still gets me to this day, is that I can turn around and I can say, you know what, I need another gig, right? Black Friday coming along, I do that, right? And you see bandwidth has gone up, right? And so that happens dynamically, all right? Now, let's get back to some slides.
Just a quick question for you, Ronan. I think you've already
Sure,
addressed this. What happens when the license expires in ADM to the instance that's been subscribed?
So there is a grace period, and after the grace period, features, I'll say this, features may stop, right? So with pooled licensing and licensing in ADM, it's something you need to be mindful of, that you don't let your license expire. It may keep on running for a short while after the grace period, but I would not, I wouldn't trust it. Because if that is the case, then a reboot means that you're going to, at the boot time, it'll come up with no features.
And we have a trap notification for that as well, correct? So your monitoring system will be alerting on that.
Absolutely, ADM will flag that too. So I know we have done an ADM session, specific ADM session before. So that would probably be in there. Just shows you your with licensing, you license your ADM, not the ADC. So that just refers to if I'm licensing my appliance, we use the host ID. We use this little command here, lm util host ID, and this is what we use when we're generating the license file. We paste in this code here, and the ADM, we need that code as well when we're licensing. We generate it for the ADM, and then our NetScaler or ADC checks it in and out. All right. Where do you get that code? You can get that by clicking on licenses, and you have this code here. That's what you need. This is unique to your ADM instance, and it's what what your licenses are tied to. All right. Okay.
And just one more item to clear up, if we can, if we're going to be using ADM licensing, we need an instance as well as a bandwidth for the instances for SDX specifically. Correct.
Correct. Yeah.
All right, that's all the questions we had. Let's continue on.
All right. So this is kind of 101 kind of stuff, but just things you might wonder why it's not working. IP addresses you must configure, and again, there's caveats to everything. But in general, you need a management IP address. You need a subnet IP address. That's what's used to talk to your backend servers, and you need a VIP. That's what NetScaler or ADC listens on for traffic coming in. All right. So those three addresses, it's kind of needed for the bread and butter, the standard functionality of the device. The caveats are, of course, if you're in the DevOps world using a CPX, there is a single IP mode that's used in you use a Citrix ADC or Citrix CPX, which is basically ADC in a container, and so on. But in general, yeah, that's what you need. Reasons why I'm talking about this is, and I guess if you look at how traffic flows through the device, ADC listens on the VIP, will receive a request and sends it through to the backend server using the subnet IP. Right? So your backend servers do not see the client IP address. They see the IP address of the device here. One of the benefits of that is, of course, we can multiplex multiple connections over one single TCP connection to the backend server. All right, that's one advantage. Now, I put this little dragon. Here be dragons, right? So use source IP is something that we've seen, where some web applications or backend applications, they say, yeah, we want to see the original client IP address. So you can configure this on a per service level, or you can enable it globally. And it means you use the original client IP address here to send traffic to the backend server. So it doesn't see the subnet IP. NetScaler will use the original client, the source IP address here to send traffic to the backend server, right? So these servers here do not see the subnet IP, they see the client IP address, right? You may say, yeah, well, that sounds pretty cool because NetScaler seems kind of transparent then, right? As far as backend service is concerned. The problem with that is most environments, these servers here will have a different default route. So they will send traffic back somewhere else, not to the ADC, and then packet gets dropped, right? So to use source IP mode turned on, you need to make sure that the return path will send the traffic through the ADC, right? It will see the traffic coming back from the server. It will say, yep, that's a request that that's a response to a request I sent, and it will process it and send it back to the VIP. Because remember, if the client send a request to a VIP that's owned by the ADC, and it doesn't expect to get a response directly back from the server. All right. This could be a little bit confusing, just so people know, when you enable a feature globally, like compression or like use source IP, and then you add a service, it will inherit that. Okay. However, any existing services that were created before you made the change globally do not inherit that. And that's kind of logical. It's by design, but it can catch some people out sometimes. They go, hey, I've enabled source IP globally, or I've enabled compression globally. Why isn't my service doing that? Why isn't it, And the reason is that it doesn't want to, change the individual services that have been created with that. Subsequent services you create will have that setting. Now, another huge troubleshooting tip here, and we find it all the time, even with our most advanced and experienced customers, is the IP conflict. All right, this can be pretty flaky. What this symptom, what this presents as, is a backend service that's flapping up and down. It's failing a monitor, and we take a look at that towards the end of load balancing. It's failing a health check, service goes up, service goes down, and so on. And that is because another device out there is conflicting with, a subnet IP address of NetScaler. That means production traffic is being sent by NetScaler to the server, and the server is responding to a different location. So NetScaler doesn't see the response, and sometimes that's a production response, which means the user gets a timeout, and sometimes that's a health check, which means the service goes down, right? So it's always worthwhile when you ever have kind of intermittent, flaky kind of behavior like that. It's always worthwhile to go in there and check for that. And where am I? Yeah, I'm looking for this here. Let's find my mouse. There it is there. And so just have a little, I have a little text file on my desktop that has these commands in there, so I don't get a typo. I put them in and run this command, and that would show you if you had any IP conflicts. All right, and we jump onto this one here.
Just one comment on this. We also have an additional counter. So we've had situations where the IP conflict is observed, but they're not sure how to resolve the issue. So we have additional counters. There's so many counters and statistics on this kernel that you can actually look at that MAC move counter, identify the actual MAC address, and then locate it in the switch if you need to go further. But always make sure these logs are clean, like Ronan is showing you, and you can actually get even more detailed levels of information about the interfaces themselves, not just the IPs.
Oh, see that? You go back up here, look at the, all right, so we can see IP conflict. All right, so well worth going in there and looking at that. And there's a whole ton of counters that we can take a look at. I'm just looking at console messages that we would see sent out. Just a whole bunch of it. We'll take a look at some other counters shortly. For now, let's take a look at some policy expressions, right? And creating policy expressions. Now, just log into my device. I'm not going with the videos here. We get it live. You get the live experience. It's a bit late requesting my demo, so it's not located in Europe. It's quite far away from me, but it's still pretty responsive for something a couple of continents away. So let's take a look at our expressions. So we go to AppExpert, and for example, we can go down here into rewrite and policies. It's important to know that Policies in NetScaler they consist of two things. An action, which is something you do, and an expression, which is when you do it. So that's pretty much it. Two things. What do you want to do? When do you want to do it? That's a policy. So when we write, we have our action here. Just what do I want to do? All right. And we can create our action. And it can be, let's insert a header, for example. Master class. And here's where we can say, I want to insert something in here. Now I can put in some text like that. But what if that's not much use? What if I want to do something dynamic? What if I want to insert the client IP address or something like that? So you see here, press Control Space to start the expression. I do that, and it's the client IP address. I choose this, right? So it's client. I hit full stop, and I get the next menu that pops up. IP, great, full stop, dot source, right? That's going to insert the source IP address in here. And call that master class header. And you go down to the policy. This is what I'm going to create. So when do I do it? So I'm going to join that action that I just created. There's a whole bunch of default ones built in here. There's some ones that are part of the menu, part of the demo itself. And that's the one I created. So rewrite Pol master class. And when do I want to do this? Let's say whenever we receive a valid HTTP request, for example. I can choose to do this for a request from a particular subnet IP address, right? So from a particular IP network, I want to do this. For particular browsers, anything at all, I can have that conditional element. I'm gonna do an easy one here, and I hit create. All right, that's my, now I've created the policy. It doesn't actually do anything at this stage, right? That is important to know. It doesn't do anything because I have to apply it. I have to stick it on somewhere. I can see over here, hits, right? So there's hits is quite important as well. That tells me that it hasn't been hit. And if I drag my page over here, this is, I'm going to refresh this. That loads some content. I'm going to refresh this page here, and I'm going to see that my master class header still has 0 hits. Again, because we haven't bound it anywhere. Now just do a bit of binding. It's request side. Let's override global. I want to make sure that it is hit. And hopefully this doesn't screw anything else that's on here. This screen is usually a lot smaller, easier to navigate around. I just have it zoomed in for the sake of people watching the recording. Right, that's done. Let's go back to my web page. And let me refresh. All right. Now, refresh this here. And I can see, wow, 95 hits. All right. So that shows I know that it's getting hit. Now, sometimes you have lots of policies bound all over the place. And you might be wondering, well, how do I know which policy, or if my policy has actually hit or not? Now the command in here, this guy here. So this shows you the policies in real time that are actually being hit. So if I go back here and reload my page, I can find it. There we are. I can see there these. This service I'm loading is behind a AAA server, and we're looking at Paul hits. That's going to show anything that's with authentication. I need to change this to hits because I think this is a rewrite policy hit. Refresh that page again, and I see a whole bunch of stuff in here. So a lot of policies. I just need to, this was a bit bigger, be a bit cleaner. I can see rewrite policy, master class got hit twice, right? 2 per second. All right, and there's a delta here as well. So I can see clearly exactly which policies are being hit and what's happening. All right, really useful for saying, I've applied my policy. Is it being hit? What's it doing? I don't know. All right. Not sure if there's a way to actually view the headers in here on this page. Might be. Can I see? No, I think there's a. Take a look at some of these later on. I can configure this this particular PHP page. I think it's looking for client minus IP as the header name, and it would spit out the IP address. It would show it there. We can have a play with some of these things in a second. Let's just take a quick look. Some more troubleshooting. I'm going to go in here, and again, this is just kind of more browser troubleshooting, but I just want to see what's happening on this page. And reload that again. And this shows you all the objects. So red PHP was fetched, and I can see all of the headers, the response headers are in there. Now I can see X powered by, right? PHP 5.3.6, X powered by ASP.NET. X powered by a PHP. Right, so let's just, we can look at this server there. Servers doesn't stay, I don't get any server headers in here. However, server says Microsoft IIS, right? How about I don't want people to see that? Just a quick another little example. I'm going to add an action. Replace. I haven't practiced this, and it's been a while since I've done this, so a little rusty, but we'll get there. cp.response.header server. All right. And you know what the mask has. Policy. And it's more of a rewrite than on anything else. Paul mask IS. It's a response side. My action. This Great. Policy manager, override global. The response side policy, make sure you choose the correct one. If you don't choose the correct one, it'll give you a warning that it's a request action in a response flow.
I'm busy answering questions here. You're getting a lot of excellent feedback. Oh, okay. Here's a good one for you when you get to it. Can you bind several actions to one policy and multiple policies to a view server?
You cannot bind several actions to one policy. However, you can create a policy label, which is like a container, and you bind multiple policies in that container. That way, you just have to make that one binding of a container, and then you have 10 policies bound in one go. So yeah. Yes, absolutely.
And we can also get a little more advanced with that using other things like pattern sets, etc.
Oh yeah, yeah.
A policy off a map or a string map.
Yeah, could have definitely have an AppExpert. I have an AppExpert day maybe one of the days.
Hopefully that answered that question.
So, and let me just go back now. I've bound that, and I've tried to mask my server. So if I refresh this page, and its demo gods are shining on me, you can see now server says Linux, right? So someone nasty, nefarious person doing reconnaissance on my server will go, oh, okay, it's a Linux box. No point using Microsoft hacks on that. Right? Just some little examples in there, and of course, going back to where all of this came from, is that we're if I run this command, and I can grep this, for like this, for example. Now this doesn't do historical searches. I haven't passed it a log file. I'm simply saying look in real time and give me the details. So you can see there is the hits coming in here. So we're seeing a couple of hits. This is probably ADM or something like this, which is checking it concurrently, or some other device, app scanning, bots scanning every single page on the site, possibly. We can see some results coming in here where you can see, yes, I'm getting some hits. Right, now moving on swiftly. We've kind of hung around here long enough, but policies are important. We've looked at troubleshooting policy expressions. Let me just show you, let's say that policy didn't do exactly what I wanted it to do. That didn't insert Linux the way I wanted it to. I could say, I want to have a look at that. So I want to, how do I know it's going to do that without actually logging in and taking a look at that response flow? And the way we can do that is we go to policies, we go here, may actually be here to our action, and I'm going to click on evaluate. Now this is pretty awesome. I love this functionality. So a sample response, okay? It's a response flow type. That's what I'm going to look at. Here it gives me just a standard 200 OK, and server here is Apache, and I simply go evaluate, and it's let me see what the response looks like, and even highlights here's what it is, and here's in red with a strike through, and here's what we've replaced. So I know that this policy is going to do exactly what I want it to do. All right. So the evaluator tool is pretty nice. One caveat with this is that if I want to do something like dynamic from the client IP, a client IP address, you don't have access to the layer 3 information in the evaluator. So you might get like a little error popping up in here. But once we have all the information in here to perform the action, you're taking something from here, then you'll see that it does, takes this out, puts this in, simple, right? So the evaluator tool, really powerful in seeing what, how your action will work. Okay, So policy hits, we looked at this. Here's just some of the values in here that I threw in, so you can go back to the slide deck, copy and paste them out. And also stuff like one-time password. We have, there's tons and tons of counters in here. If, for example, I go to, if I take out the grep here, -g grep, and just do, I'm probably going to get a whole ton of information. Or do I need to? Yeah. So you can see here, I get reams and reams of information. That's why I want to grep it. But you get all sorts of counters popping out in here. We write these counters out every 7 seconds. We store these counters in the var nslog. So if we go in here, I will see that there's a whole bunch of files that are gzipped. And I will see a folder here called new nslog. Okay. I go in here and I see there's new nslog.ppe.0, right? We write one of these per packet engine, right? So each packet engine has its own log file, but you don't have to search each log file individually. That nscon message command will aggregate all of the log files that are here and give you one result back. Just so you know that it's there. It means that I can point at a log file from last week and I can say, did I see any errors? What's CPU performance like? What was memory consumption like? And so on. So you have a full historical backlog of data that you can avail of. We will roll that log file over every 300 meg or every 2 days, whichever comes first. On systems that aren't too busy, it usually hits the 2-day mark, which means that we store, I think, up to 99 of those log files. So you can have up to 3 months of data stored there, which is pretty impressive, of minute detail of what policy was hit when. The log files are binary, so you can't read them in a text file. That's why we have to use this nscon message command here to read it, right? The reason why it's binary is that we store there's so much volume of information that writing the log files wouldn't be possible if it was plain text. Right. So again, we could just I could babble on all day about this sort of stuff. Let's take a look at load balancing. Why is my service down? Another common problem. And we can drop in here into, load balancing. How are we doing on time? Okay, yeah, we're doing okay. Load balancing, services, and I can see here that the server state is up, right? Which is fantastic. I can see one of these is down, right? Not so fantastic. Let's go in here and I want to take a look at this service. And I can see here's my monitor. I'm doing a health check. So Citrix ADC, NetScaler, does health checks against all its services. Sometimes that health check can be, out of the box, just check that a port is open. But sometimes it can be a lot more specific, right? In this case, I'm checking for a particular pattern. My monitor name is MSSQL, and my response is pattern not found in response, right? So I'm actually sending a specific request to my SQL server, and I don't find something in the response. You can go in here to the monitors. You can create your own monitors. I highly recommend you do. Create monitors that are specific to your application. You can ping a backend server. You can ping a Linux server. You can ping a Windows server. It does not mean your services are up and running. This is the monitor that we were looking at there. It doesn't mean that they're up and running. It means that the TCP stack is working, but the database service could have crashed. The IIS could have crashed, or some components of IIS could have crashed. You could actually TCP port 80 or port 443 could be open, but PHP isn't working or ASP.NET isn't working. So you really need to have a specific health check It's actually going to catch those issues that when something goes down, you don't send requests to it. This monitor here is pretty smart. It's actually looking for the role, okay? It's doing a query against a database, and where it's principal, it means that it's up. So this means this doing a health check against a backend service that is not principal, so it doesn't send requests to it. This is a way for a DB admin to change a SQL server from principal to non-principal and vice versa, and production traffic will automatically be directed to the server that is principal, right? Or master, something like that, right? So you can do some really intelligent, some really cool stuff just by crafting proper health checks. The power of ADC, right? So we do this, and it's easy to set up these specific monitors. Same for HTTP. I can send a request, look for a string in the response. It's what its application availability is all about. Is load balancing working, right? So we often sort of, sometimes people think, oh, I'm only getting requests from one backend server. So you have the stat command on here. This is really useful for seeing what's going on. So stat command, and I hit tab, gives you a list of all of the backend services. And just that. So I see stat LBV server, and I can see requests to blue. There's 12, there's 9 and 9. All right. So requests and responses. So yeah, it's maybe not exactly a very even load because we have 12 here and we have 2 9s, but pretty close. Why do we have more? Now, I'll tell you why we have more is because when I hit that red PHP, this is there's a content switching rule on the device which only sends traffic to the red backend server. If you go to blue.php, you see the same, and green.php. You can send to the green. So there's some content switching happening in there. All right, that's why you see the stats. Let me just do this again. I can see that we're a bit closer to it. I'd hit that request one more time, and we're probably, even load balancing. Some lots of information in here. So I can see the response rate per second. It's a test system, not a lot happening, but on production systems, you see 100 requests per second, 200 requests per second. Client, how many clients are connected? If your backend servers cannot process responses in time, the requests build up on the V server and we queue them, right? Here we can see server time to first byte. This is really important for knowing how responsive your backend servers are. For some reason, the green server here takes significantly longer to respond. So while it's in a production environment, I'd be kind of going, well, I'll keep an eye on the green server. If it's a Windows box, maybe some heavy duty antivirus processing is running on there. If it's a database server, maybe some big database queries are running, it's making it slower. And we need to make sure that doesn't start causing a performance impact on my application. But that's the sort of visibility we have in here with the ADC doing the monitoring and also looking at real-time traffic processing over the device, right? So we know load balancing is working using that. Okay. Stat HTTP. I think there was the man command. Let's not forget that. Tilde under mistake. I get information about CLI commands, right? So we can see in here all these different information. Let's take the man command into that. And yeah, we don't see any speedy responses and things like that in there. I'm actually looking for something. Stan, maybe off the top of your head, is the HTTP bandwidth parameters. which is a useful one as well. It'll come back to me. No. So there's a stat command. I'll take it out for the second session. It actually shows statistically the size of your responses as well flowing through the device. Right? That is really useful as well in terms of throughput sizing and how your applications are performing. And it again shows the visibility that we have on the device. All right. So built-in diagnostics. Taking a look on here, what you have available to you on the device. You drop in here, system, diagnostics. I can take a network trace, right, which is great. The packet never lies. Take a trace. You can start it, stop it from here. You get that file, open it in Wireshark, and off you go. Generate a support file. This is awesome, right? Because what happens here is that it goes off and collates the last few new NSLog files, stat logs, sys logs, you name it. It runs a whole bunch of commands as well, loads it all up into a file, and it means that you get a really good snapshot of what is happening on the device at that point in time. If you ever experience any weird kind of behavior, run your show tech support. You can do it from the CLI or you can do it from the GUI and take that file off the box, and when support asks you for information, nearly everything they ask you for will be in that file. In fact, just send it to them, right? So that's one way to see exactly what's going on the device. It's very handy. Network tracing, let's talk about connection viewer. Let's take a look in here as well. I'm actually waiting for that to finish loading. And that new NSLog file. We have a configuration comparison tool, so I can compare two configs. FYI, we store on the device, we store 5 copies of your ns.conf. When you hit save config, it'll make a copy of that. We drop into the shell, nsconfig, use, now you'll see here, ns.conf 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, which is great. You basically have 5 get out of jail free cards. If you make a real mess of things, right? And I hit save 3 times. One of these files here is the one that has the previous state that I want to get back to. All right. Persistence table as well. So that's useful when you have client requests being persisted to the backend server. You can view that and see which backend servers your clients are connecting to. That is still running. I don't want to download that. I was just doing a demo. Hit close, close. So this lets you see what's happening on the device. I can view all connections, not recommended in production, but you can see all the requests, client IP, source IP, destination IP, going through the whole device. If we go to TCP connections, and I think the client server mapping, and we might have to hit link. I'm just going to have to be kind of quick on this because HTTP requests are extremely fast. Refresh a bunch of times, hit continue. And I can see here client IP, server IP. So this shows my requests coming in and where it's going to. All right, so coming in from outside and which backend server it's being sent to. And the table as well. Right. That's it there. So we're just looking at. So we have all of that in here. We also have some performance information as well. So I capture what memory usage is on the device and so on. I can look at events from the syslog viewer, and the services that are going up and down is all captured in there as well. Something that I find pretty handy is CLI command. If someone wants to say, if you want to capture a configuration, you may want to type or get the CLI command for something. You'll notice that if I go to in here, tail var log ns.log minus f. To hold it open, I'm just going to hit enter a few times. And as I click around in the GUI, let's say I just want to add an IP. Something like that. Oh, no, down here, hit create. Back to my CLI, and I should be able to see, oh, there's a lot of stuff happening on here. ADM is always getting information from here as well. So my command has gone up the list a little bit. And you should see in here, add an SIP. There we are. Right, so that was the command I typed in. A bit more information than is necessary, but we have all the diagnostics in there, so that just shows you CLI commands. As you tick through the GUI, you see all the commands spitting out here, right? Really handy, and of course they get logged into a log file. That syslog on the device rolls over pretty quickly, I think every 100K or so, so you really need to be shifting your syslogs off your device for production use. More on that in a minute. Okay. NSTCP dump.sh. So popping the hood, this is useful for connectivity. This is a bit like NSTCP dump.sh is a bit like running Wireshark, but live stats. If I want to troubleshoot why I can't talk to a I'm going to hit enter here. I'm going to hit Control C pretty quickly. I'll tell you why. Because it just basically gives you a full network trace of the device spitting out through and displayed out here. It's just tons and tons of information. What I typically do is I search it or I grep this for additional information. So I might grep it for you know, an authentication, an LDAP server. If I want to see, can I communicate with an LDAP server? The little arrow shows that text or the request is going out here, right? So I'm sending a request out, and there's some flags here which indicate if it's a SYN, if it's a NAC, and so on. So we can see if there's connectivity. If I get a response back, here's me requesting 192.168.3.67, and in the last dot, we know that IP addresses don't have 5 octets. This is actually saying it's port 80, talking to this server here, 35316. And we can see that we should be getting responses back from that. It should be further up or further below in the list. Right, so really useful for connectivity, but remember to grep it for the IP addresses, specific IP addresses that you're interested in. Authentication issues. Cat temp. We used to have to go in here for any authentication issue whatsoever, right? I'll just show you if I close this down. I'm just going to log in here again, and we should see all of the connectivity information. Incognito. So it's going to give me a authentication page. User 1. I just need to get the password for that guy. Now, I'm going to hit enter in a second, but I want you to be looking at this. And I hit enter. Okay, 3, 2, 1, now. Bang. Look at all this. So I can see in terms of LDAP, I can see the communication between the device and the LDAP server, right? So we can see there, no group doing group extraction for user one. If there is group extraction, they all get spit out there. You get the bind attribute and so on. Tons of information right there about why someone can't log in, or why LDAP is not working, or remote authentication is not working. That is all in there. Now, this is all pretty hairy stuff. And you go, God, that's very complicated. I shouldn't really have to do that. And you're right, you shouldn't. Which is why we have built that into the GUI. So let me find the GUI for that page. Here we go. I may have been timed out of this. Let's see if we have or not. Authentication, and there we have a dashboard. Let's just see what's happening. Can I communicate with my LDAP server? I can. I go to logs, and you should see in here, yes, user one successfully logged in. Information right here. So a nice way to see what's going on in terms of user authentication, all in here as well. Right, so don't have to go into that run that cat command on that file. Incidentally, this file here is what's called a Unix pipe, right? And oops, I keep hitting tilde. It's beside my enter key. It has a size 0, right? So this is not a text file you can download off the device. You have to run the cat command. So like information passes through it, but does not get stored in it, right? So cat command is what you use to capture information in that. So it was notoriously tricky to find information in this because you had to go and run the cat command and then get the user to log in and do it. But thankfully, we don't have to do it anymore because it's all captured in here and stored for posterity. Right. That is AAA and some of those authentication troubleshooting tips. So taking a closer look, that's me having a closer look on my surfboard, some performance and stats. One thing I always do if you're getting some odd behavior on a device when you log in is I run df-h from the shell, just have a little look at the partitions, right? We have 2 partitions that we really care about. This one here, you'll see is the root partition, right? So dev md0, and this is a RAM drive. Anything that's not stored in /var or /flash basically gets lost after reboot, right? The whole rest of your system is in RAM. This is can be a bit of a pain when you spend a lot of time customizing some file or some configuration file that's in here, and you reboot and then it's gone. However, you know, we have ways of actually persisting those changes, but it's really nice if someone pulls a plug on the device, you know, shuts down and files get corrupted, or you make a real mess of the system when you're doing things you shouldn't be doing, you reboot and you get a brand new file system set up again. So we populate this file system at boot time. Syslogs we saw earlier on, farlog ns.log, and new ns logs, our performance logs that we saw, the counter hits, are in here. So those are the logs that we ultimately care about. Now, that bundle that I showed you how to capture, what do you do with it?
Real quick, before you switch subjects, one question for you.
Sure. Yeah.
Just for clarification, is SAML in the authentication logs with that debug? So will assertion errors, I guess the question is around posting assertions from NetScaler as IDP.
That is an excellent question. Let me just.
So I believe that's all exposed. Yeah. The only option you may need to turn on is debug mode to get those to show up in the files. But we'll check on that one for you, and Tej respond back with, we'll just clarify that for you.
Sure, yeah, it's anything that happens with our authentication daemon is there. I know, for example, that a client certification, client certificate authentication, some of that gets stored in the ns.log file. So there is some, it'll be captured. If it isn't in the AAAD, the debug, it should be in ns.log. We do capture everything.
Yeah.
So
I remember a debug flag somewhere on that log file though.
Cool. All right.
Great.
So you come along here, you have your bundle, and you get this, right? So when you log into CIS at citrix.com with your account, your Citrix account that has, maintenance and stuff like that on it, you can then click on diagnostics, and you can upload. You click on diagnostics, you have health check here. Click on health check, and you can upload a support bundle. Right? That's pretty cool. Uploading that support bundle, you get a little, once it's uploaded, you get an email to say, yeah, we're going to parse through that. And I'm just going to see if I can find one for you now. Because I usually take these from our customers' devices. And it's been a while since I've done one of these. And GDPR and all that, we don't want to be showing anything we shouldn't be showing. Let me get, so some of the graphs, in fact, don't work. Yeah, some of the graphs don't work when it's older than 6 months, I think. So you should get I recommend everyone should do this on a kind of a quarterly basis. And just see if we get something that's interesting. Yeah. So all the stuff I have here, they all have customer information on here. So I can't show that to you, but I will do that. I'll get something uploaded for the next class, but just so you're aware of the different categories that you have here. Maybe I can show this one here. Archive, yeah. So let me pop in here. Wait, this doesn't have any customer data. So this is what it looks like. I just have to filter it out, but you can see issues. Once you open up the, you'll receive an email to say your issue has been parsed. You open this up in here, and you will get the following. You will get recommended changes you should make to your configuration, security, potential security issues you have, like if you're using an insecure cipher, haven't changed default password, this will be flagged in here as well. Any bug fixes that have been released subsequently, which you don't have access to because you're running older firmware, will get flagged. You have access to performance information. So that support bundle, you can see the whole historical data of those couple of days, what memory was like, what CPU was like, access to all of that. It's pretty nice kind of tool to use on a kind of a post-mortem basis once you have the snapshot captured, right? So that is CIS.citrix.com. Highly recommend do that. Some customers say to us, I guess what this is basically our escalation engineers have built tools to automate the routine tasks that they do every day, right? And our dev analysis engineers. If someone says, "Oh, I want to see, we had an outage 3 days ago." Okay, send me your tech support bundle. We push it through here and we go, "Oh yeah, we can see the traffic went way, massive spike of traffic, and that, faster, that's more than the device could handle, and so CPU and memory went, they went quite high, and we could see packet drops here, here, and here. It's all in here, right? So good for post-mortem. Now, what if you don't want to do post-mortem? What if you want something in real time? And that is where ADM comes in, or MAS as it used to be called back in the day. So this is what we recommend you would use. If you have a NetScaler, plug MAS into it, and you get all sorts of stats in here. So event messages, you can see exactly what's going on. This has noticed that I have an IP conflict, which is fantastic. I don't have to run that little CLI command. It's popped up in here, and it is a major severity item. You have rules, right? Rules are cool because I can actually do things with these rules. In this case, this rule here I've created, it is looking for my platform rate limit packet drop. So my VPX that I've given, a couple of 100 meg to, or 1 gig through, when that exceeds a specific volume, I can then choose to run a command, and that command is going to increase the amount of bandwidth that is allocated to that. All right. So trying to get through to the actual command, the profile name. Yeah, I need to edit this here. So the template, you go back and you can find a template, and you'll see in the configuration that that's what it does. I really like the little search field in here. This is handy for finding different here are configuration jobs, power up. Here we go. Configuration template. Click edit, and there we are. So set capacity, whatever. So I can change this. I've got a whole bunch of them in here, so they can actually use it to add more, take more bandwidth and license that out as needed, right? And you can have some downgrade ones if you want later on. However, this can, with the reports and event management, I can log messages, send it into syslog. They're captured here. I can alert here, or we can feed this into your existing SIEM management. I can send a message to Slack when certain events happen, like we see in 10,000 requests per second coming through NetScaler. Send a Slack message to the web operations team. Hey guys, make sure you have enough backend services set up. Maybe set up a script to actually deploy more backend services and so on. But it's a really all-encompassing tool. That's fantastic. It's available to you as a service on-prem, as a service from Citrix Cloud, or you can have it as an on-prem VM. All right, so Citrix ADM. So that's kind of fairly, I've been rabbiting on for a good bit. ADM, fleet management, alerting, reporting, analytics. I can't believe I forgot analytics. Okay, Lena will kill me if I don't talk about this. So infrastructure analytics, first and foremost, this gives me a view of my estate. I can see this is pretty healthy. NetScaler is green, it's 90. I can see here the same thing, but with colors. Imagine if I had 20 or 30 ADCs, right? I could have some in the cloud, Azure, AWS, on-prem, public cloud, private cloud. ADM can have visibility over them all, and quite quickly you can see if you have an issue with any one of them, right? I can see a not recommended issue here, and that is a certificate that's on there. So I can configure what certificate standards I want to adhere to, and they will get flagged in here, right? So that's the first thing. That's for infrastructure. We go into applications, right? Take a look at applications. I can see what's available what applications are running. So on load balancing Exchange, SharePoint, whatever, they all pop up in here with an application score. We use AppExpert scoring, industry standard way of scoring an application based on server response time, error messages, and so on. And we give a health check or a health scoring and apply that to your service. This is perfect for your Exchange teams to know, well, what's my Exchange, health score, or my SharePoint, or any web application, the web team, or the team that owns that, but don't own the ADC, what is my health as it appears to the outside world, right? So that is what can be displayed here. These boxes change in terms of size based on the volume of traffic, and the color changes based on the health, right? So it's quite easy and quick to see exactly what's happening at any point in time. We have web insights, right? A bit like Google Analytics, but again, this is all in-house. You don't have to, we can use this internally with our on-prem edition without sending one packet of data outside of your network. That is really handy. This is my own system, so there isn't much happening in here. And of course, we have Citrix and Citrix benefits with HDX Insight, Gateway Insight, and so on for other apps. If you do have Citrix apps, highly recommend you to use the Gateway Insight. I'll just quickly show you. We have some kind of frozen or pre-populated data that I can just give you an idea of what's available on there. It's absolutely essential if you're in an operation role supporting Citrix apps through a NetScaler gateway to stop yourself getting into trouble and people going, oh, it's the network, it's the gateway. This will tell you exactly where the issues lie. So if we drop in here to analytics, and you got HDX Insight, and we can see in here what the ICA round trip time is, what WAN latency is, what DC latency is. So exactly, if someone goes, the app is slow, you get the pointers here pointing exactly what the issue is. You can go to one specific user. You can open up that particular user and see what experience they're having per application, how much bandwidth they're taking, and so on. Here, this tells you which device they're passing over, and you can see the different channels, how much bandwidth is being consumed by the different channels. So I can see here, they're copying some stuff off the USB stick up to the virtual machine, or if they're printing or whatever, that information is all in there as well. So glad I got that little bit in. Absolutely essential. However, I know that not everyone is using ADM. And so I want some information from you. So just towards the end of the webinar, I know people are probably, if you have kind of drifted off, maybe if you just come back to us for a second and just give us some input. We just want to know which SIEM everyone uses. I just picked a few. I just picked a few off the top of my head. If you use other, maybe you'd be so kind as to put it into the question panel. Just pop the name in of the one you're using. I know there's so many out there. We just kind of, and unfortunately our poll doesn't allow you to give a text box to type something in. So naturally we have integrations into several of these different SIEMs. So your response would be greatly appreciated. And I'm not sure how long we want to leave it open for.
Yeah, we just generally do a minute. So we'll just set it.
Okay.
We'll give them another 10 seconds here.
All right. So yeah, for those of you who've drifted off, bring the screen back into focus. Click on the radio button.
They haven't drifted off. The questions are still, they're rolling in. I'm typing furiously here.
I guess, yeah. Super.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. Let's go ahead and.
Right. You can still type in your solution afterwards, but I think we'll we hit close and we just basically it's yeah, a lot of people using Splunk and other, right? So I'm curious.
A whole bunch of other.
Yeah, we'd be curious what that other is. Again, it helps us shape our product and who we partner with. All right. If I could ask you, if you have evaluated ADM in your environments, service or on-prem, we really want to know if you have or haven't. That's the next question. So hopefully after my little spiel there, you'll say, yeah, I think that's important. From a cost perspective, if you want to dip your toe in the water, this isn't a huge element. In fact, once you have ADC, you're entitled to get the on-prem ADM. And what's most important is that there's no cost to getting the virtual appliance. There's no cost to getting it up and running. If you want to use the analytics platform in Anger, there is a small cost associated to that, but you can dip your toe in the water for no cost at that as well. So try it. By all means, you can get some HTX insight in there. There are some dependencies, but by all means, that's the only area where there's a cost element. Automation, artificial intelligence, machine learning, there's some really cool functionality in this product as a whole. So I think we have collected enough from that. And it looks like a good portion of you have evaluated. 33% of you haven't, so hopefully that will spur you on to go and say, hey, I want this information from my ADC. And so the last question I just want to ask you is, do you want to be contacted by anyone about ADM? If you want to know more information about it, this is your chance to let us know. We'll capture that, and you'll get some information, some email about where to download it, your entitlements, and so on. And I'll leave that open for a minute or so. I don't need to share these results. And that concludes my little portion. So that went way over what I thought it would, but I don't think I'm stepping on anyone's toes, Dan.
No, this is our last session of the day or of the year, so we're probably going to give some time back to the audience. But with that being said, we're actually not in a rush, and with the amount of questions coming in, I think you're spot on here with content and timing. So I appreciate that. Let me go, and I'm just going to see if there's any more questions. All right, looks like we're finally getting to the thank you, great presentation comments. There's 2 or 3 pending questions, which I'll take offline. Everything else has been answered and recorded. And yes, someone did ask a question if they can be contacted for ADM evaluations. So if you just go ahead in that poll and click yes, we can stop that poll, I think. Then we will have our folks at the field level contact you to set up an eval. So that should answer that, and that should automate that for you. So hopefully we're good there. So thank you very much. And let me see, I'm just flushing questions here since we have folks answer the presentation. And there's a question about some videos, which I'll cover here in a moment. All right, perfect. You guys are teeing up the content almost exactly the way it's flowing. Okay, so let's wrap up. Let me get myself into presentation mode. Let me make myself presenter. A lot of thank yous today.
I'm just going to close that. Close the poll.
And let me make myself presenter. Okay, so as we wrap up, this is our news and views section. Just on topical items related to all things Citrix networking in general within our product portfolio. So the first thing you'll see what else is happening, and there's been a bunch of enhancements. So we've been in hybrid multi-cloud. We've had masterclass presentations on hybrid multi-cloud several times throughout the 2019 calendar year and before. But a lot of the advanced, some of the very specific functionality related to the PaaS vendors themselves have enhancements that have been added directly into those PaaSes. And it's interesting, I see Ronan asked the polling questions about the SIM, the SIEM, and it looks like that 46% of other were largely responding back into the question pane about using SIMs from their PaaSes, which actually makes a lot of sense. So it's becoming very much platform specific, not vendor independent necessarily. But these blogs are a good way for us to kind of share the information without somebody having to wait to either parse through a released feature or release notes in order to find out if they're interested in specific platforms. And this one actually happens to be AWS. So Pankaj Gupta and Santa Clara put together a blog on this around our actual performance and simplicity for the deployment. So things like CloudFormation templates and performance and auto scaling, all of those types of things. So please have a read there if you're interested or use Amazon today. That's a very deep integration and a partnership with us. Our colleague Dave, who will be on this afternoon here in a couple hours, did some work with Amazon VPC for ingress routing. So we know now that with all of these VPCs across these different clouds, largely in hybrid multi-cloud, there's concerns for ingress traffic and routing and what operations can be done on that traffic. So Dave put a blog together regarding that as well and how his configuration is built and validated. And again, as the world continues to evolve with these hybrid on-site converged infrastructure appliances, as well as the PaaS clouds themselves, we're seeing that more and more vendors are releasing on-premise versions of their cloud that has a hyper-converged connector. And that in the AWS or Amazon world is now called Outposts. So if you have anything running in the Amazon cloud and you want to have a hybrid data center with your private data center, you can use the Outpost technology in your data center and manage your subscription and environment in Amazon cloud, all as one cloud activity. So Marissa put a blog together with the actual integrations and how we're fully integrated into that stack for these appliances. So there's no stitching or secret sauce that's required. It deploys exactly like it's deployed on the Amazon cloud, same templates, same API. So a good update there from Marissa. And then anything else, check out our blogs. This was one of the questions. So a lot of our ADC use cases, we have an API gateway security function that's become very popular in Kubernetes-based environments. It was one of our big topics here at KubeCon 2 weeks ago in the United States, and how we actually have an integration with Istio Gateway for cloud native. So as you'll see in the 2020 calendar, make sure you fill out your surveys and give us feedback. But cloud native networking is picking up some steam, and there's a lot of questions about how we integrate into those Kubernetes platforms for all of the different vendors. And that information will again be shared in the same format as the blogs. And if you want videos, this was another question that was in the question pane today. We have our own YouTube channel where we house and catalog and tag everything on YouTube, so it's publicly available for you. So while you'll receive a link at the end of this session with the recording, if you wanted to play it yourself, you can certainly go out to the YouTube channel and browse and peruse all of the different configurations and topics that have been recorded across the products. And I think we had this question come up as well as a polling question, an ADM white glove. So if you're interested in ADM, we have a white glove service for you. So you can actually go directly to this web form. Again, this will be shared with you at the conclusion of the second session today. You can go to this web form, fill out your relevant information, and we'll have our ADM white glove team contact you directly for that onboarding. And that is all I have for today. So I want to thank you. I hope everyone has a fantastic new year and for 2020 here just around the corner. Hopefully we're going to see you at our summit event as a partner in January in the United States. And again, please fill out your surveys. Make sure that you use the Networking Masterclass email handle to send us any topics for 2020. Most of the agenda is filled out, but we definitely have no problem making adjustments for the content. So with that, appreciate your time. Have a great day. Thank you, Ronan, so much for your time today.
Anytime. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.